Welcome everybody. It's great to see some familiar faces here to learn more about your personal brand. I know that this is something that Amy is particularly great at, and she's one of those people who is continuously learning and sharing, and she's put a lot of energy and effort into this workshop, so I hope you get a lot of positive learnings from it. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today. If we were physically at the hub in Melbourne, the Stone and Chalk hub, that would be the peoples of the Kulin Nation. I'm obviously in the Macedon Ranges, and for me, it is the peoples of the Dja Dja Wurrung. And I'd like to recognise and respect their elders, past and present. You have a slide up in front of you, which is Stone and Chalk in a snapshot. I've just got a little blurb I'd like to read, because for those of you who don't know about Stone and Chalk, this is a fantastic summary. So we're a leading impact network for emerging technology. We work with our partner AusCyber, and we've curated a community of over 400 startups and scale-ups. And the sectors include, it actually commenced 7 years ago in fintech, but we've grown obviously to cybersecurity, AI, property tech, reg tech, ag tech. There's also an event later on today about ag tech, if you're interested, space tech and beyond. It's a constantly growing area and very exciting. We are a not-for-profit, and the idea is that we identify, nurture and connect and propel these organisations to grow and scale nationally and internationally. My name is Abby Place. I'm the event manager for the Pivott program, which is what you're actually attending. You're attending a workshop which is part of Pivott. This is a program that's supported by Launch Vic, and it's to give job seekers every single opportunity to succeed in getting a job with a startup or scale up. We have the Start Smart Academy, where you can actually immerse yourself in the entire experience of preparing for a job, right through to how you actually onboard and develop the skills to ask managers the important, pertinent questions to provide some clarity in the ambiguity that can often be apparent in a startup or scale-up environment, particularly startup. There's these fantastic workshops and events that we run, and we've also got a great mentoring program called Connect, which is about to have its second group commence later in the year, and that's going really well. So that's founders partnered with mid to senior executives wanting to transition to a startup, and we're beta testing our jobs platform, which is super exciting. It's actually got a matching tool to make it a little bit more efficient for both the employer and the candidate. So we'll be sharing that with you shortly. But I would like to now hand over to Amy Bett. Amy, she supports a lot of women in particular, but men as well, in business. She is a mentor. She has a fantastic podcast where she provides advice and interviews significant people in business, and she's a facilitator of our workshops. And today we're learning about personal brand. So I'll hand over to you, Amy. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Abby, and welcome everybody officially. I'm really excited. We actually have quite a big group today, which is cool. So there will be an opportunity at some stage to go into a breakout room where we'll do a quick activity. But yeah, having this amount of people on the call is nice for that, because hopefully this can be very interactive for everybody. Today we're talking about personal branding, as Abby said, and I want to go over the workshop objectives quickly with you. So really, we're going to talk about what is your personal brand. We're going to do a digital online audit, and I'm going to talk about why that is actually important for representing yourself in the strongest way out in the workforce. We're going to talk about your content pillars and how you can really develop yourself as an expert or a leader in your industry. And then we're also going to talk about your values and the best version of you. So just to do a little bit of housekeeping, I'd love this to be a really interactive workshop. So if you do have questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box, and I'll do my best to answer them in real time as we're going. And there also will be an opportunity for questions and answers in the end, but you will need to have a pen and paper or somewhere to type some notes. So just be prepared for that if there's anything that you wanted to jot down. And also with some of the activities that we do, you may need to, have a pen and paper handy. Now, there are going to be times that I will ask questions. As I said, I want this to be really interactive. I feel as though that's the best way that we learn. So if you're unable to participate, just pop your name in the chat box now so that I don't call upon you. And also just check that I can see your name as well. So with the view that I have right now, I can see a few names, but there are a few names that I can't see. So to do that, you just press the little 3 dots at the top right of your screen, and you should just be able to amend your name just so that I feel like I'm talking to you. And also, if you feel comfortable to put your camera on while we're going, it just makes it a lot nicer to talk to people rather than talking to blank screens. If you're comfortable, of course. I don't expect you to if you don't feel comfortable. But I thought we could actually start off by me getting to know you a little bit. So if you could just write in the chat box, 1, if you're actively seeking a role at the moment or not. 2, what are you most excited to learn about today, or what drew you to coming here to participate in this workshop with us? And then 3, what industry do you work in? So if you just take a couple of moments to write your answers in the chat box now, that will just really help me to be able to tailor this workshop for you as well and make sure that I'm answering any questions that you have. So I'll give us a couple of minutes just to do that. So when we do an activity and we go into the breakout room, for anyone that has just messaged me and saying that they can't participate, feel free just to not accept it when it goes into the breakout room. That's no problems at all. And you'll just wait on hold until we come back into the space. Okay, so I haven't seen any answers yet. We'll have another minute or so just waiting for you to answer a couple of questions that are on the screen, and feel free to take yourself off mute if you have any questions as well and you just want to voice it out. Awesome. We have some now coming through. Varsha here. Yes, I'm currently seeking a new role, personal branding. I work in the health industry. Awesome. Now, hi, all, my name is it Elena? I don't want to be rude. Elena?
It's Elena.
Awesome. Thank you. You're actively seeking a role and developing your own brand in the media industry. Awesome. Jono, not currently. I'll just let these slides in to learn about how to brand myself to stand out from the rest of the competitors. Science and engineering, great. Natalie, I'm in the early stages of becoming co-founder and startup and developing my own consultancy company. I'm excited to learn more about how to promote myself. And I see this is a weak point. Yes, awesome. You're all in really cool industries, by the way. Sylvan, actively seeking a part-time role here to apply for my learnings, including my Silver Duck brand, working in electrical. Wow, cool. I'm looking for internships at the moment in either international business humanities. I currently work in hospitality. Awesome, great. And I'll see if any more come through. I can see here. Oh, awesome, there's 2 more. Finishing a PhD in consumer behaviour and exploring opportunities. Seeking a role, move back to Melbourne soon. Hoping to fix my LinkedIn profile, get some present list. Not that point is. Worked in design, tech, long-standing side project at the moment. Trying to identify a transition to something. Awesome, cool. Great. So for anyone that's just jumped on the call that's new, welcome. I'm really excited to be talking to you about personal branding today and how to put your best foot forward in this new, I guess, online space that we're all working in. Online is obviously not new. However, with this great pandemic that we've been all, I guess, experiencing, some of the impacts that has had has meant that we're all working from home. Most of us are working from home, and also we're moving online more than ever before. So I guess there's a few questions here that I just popped in here. If you feel like it, you can just let me know in the chat box. Are you actively seeking a role? What are you most excited to learn about today? And what industry do you work in? But I will move on and I'll read them as they come if you wanted to add that in there. So our focus today is developing your personal brand, because I really believe that it is key in successfully landing a role and thriving in the scale-up startup industry. As I just said, we are moving predominantly online, or we have had to move predominantly online now. And so it's really important that we are putting our best foot forward in the online space, because you will be the hiring managers, everyone will be actually looking you up. They'll be seeing, who is this person, trying to suss you out basically before you even get an interview. So if you can really have a little bit of a focus and I guess present yourself in a way that shows who you are, what you value, what you care about, and in a professional manner, obviously, it's going to really give you a great opportunity to be able to secure the role that you really want. And startup organizations really care about employing people that are an awesome culture fit. Many organizations actually value someone's soft skills to be even more important than their hard skills. And what those skills that I'm talking about are soft skills are like passion and energy, big thinkers, solution finders is a big one, and decision makers, ability to roll, pivot, and to jump in and just get on with the job, collaboration, emotional intelligence. And then your hard skills are your skills like your artificial intelligence, your cybersecurity, your cloud computing, data analytics and science. All of your actual technical skills are what we call hard skills. And so employers really want to make sure that they're employing people that are going to be great people to work with. And that's why that's something that they're really strongly valuing and looking for. So it's the fact that people buy and work with people that they know and trust. And even though you're not the business owner, as an employer, you still absolutely represent their organization. So it's really highly attractive for organizations to hire people that have a strong presence and a strong personal brand. And I guess they're seen as experts and leaders in the industry. And I did mention just before that you may think the employers won't search you up on Google, LinkedIn, or different social media platforms before your interview, but they absolutely will. And I'm not telling you this to intimidate you. And I know that obviously we've all probably got some photos on our Facebook and drunk nights out with our friends and our teens that we really don't want people to see, and they don't paint us in the most professional light. So we really want to be controlling the narrative of what is out there of us and making sure that any of those kind of pictures are either on private or hidden from our employee space, or we basically don't want to put out there what we wouldn't want an employer or our professional colleagues to see. I'm just going to there we go. So employees want an understanding of who you are, what you represent, what you're putting out in the World Wide Web. And as I said, they'll make a first impression of you before you even get offered an interview. So what will give you the best chance of nailing an interview and securing the role? And we're going to do a few of these today, which is awesome. I'm going to hopefully give you quite a few tips that you can tangibly take away today and go and action straight away to really up level who you are, like the brand you're showing out online. So we're going to complete a digital audit. We're going to bring forward the best version of you through your social media pages and LinkedIn. I'm going to help you to create a personal brand profile, and I'm going to show you how to highlight what makes you unique and what you value. And so just to reiterate again, why create a personal brand? Why is it important? Because it's really now valued for you to be seen and recognized as a leader in your industry, to give back to your community as well. When you've got a strong, we're all very knowledgeable, we're all experts in our area, and to be giving that wisdom out to other people and to be leading the way is a form of giving back, and it's a form of community because you're imparting your wisdom on other people. And I'll show you what I'm talking about there further down in this workshop. But another thing is also to build a greater sense of self-purpose. I feel as though when you're really putting your best foot forward and you're putting your values like right out there, you really feel like a whole and happy person as well. And you feel like you've got a lot to give and a lot to show. So I want to start with LinkedIn, because I want to give you a great example of a personal brand on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is really the first place that most employers in the tech industry will go and look. LinkedIn, I'd love you to put in the chat box now, yes or no, if you have a LinkedIn profile. So we'll give you 20 seconds for that. If you just quickly pop in the chat box, do you have a LinkedIn profile? So in the professional space, most of you have a LinkedIn profile. Yeah, and you can feel free to share your profile as well. But really, LinkedIn is the first place that employees will go to check you out as such, and to see who is this person and what do they have, what are they putting out there. They really will get their first impression from your LinkedIn profile. So to be able to update it and make sure that you've got your relevant experience on there, you're showing your personality on there, you have clear photos on there, that's really going to help you to make a great first impression right off the bat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a good example. Now bear with me while I maneuver things around again, but This is Amara Bowkett. She works for a company called WellWeb. She is their brand manager and content curator. And I really like her page because she's, one, very active, but two, she actually works for somebody else. And people often get the idea that just because they're an employee and they work for someone else, it means that they don't have to take the extra initiative to develop who they are and make them as someone that is seen as an expert in the field. They think that business owners are the only people that need to be getting out there as such, but that is simply not true. And Amara does a really good job of showcasing her skills and what she's passionate about. So I'll go through the areas of why I believe that her page is quite good. So she's got a really clear photo here. You can see exactly who she is. You can see what she does. She's a brand manager and content curator producer at WellWeb. You can see that she talks about wellness, diversity, mental health, and workplace wellbeing. So you can see that's what she's really passionate about. She has her skills here. And then down here, she's got some activity. So I believe that Amara also posts some articles and writes some content about areas that she's passionate about. So some of these areas were like wellness and mental health. She actually writes opinion pieces and posts it on LinkedIn. So that is also showing people in the industry that she is an expert in her field and she has something to say in the space. So that is really something that which we'll talk about in the content pillars, but I do encourage you to have a think about what you could start putting out there in terms of your expertise and how you might be able to start to showcase that via LinkedIn. And it can be literally that you do two opinion pieces a month, and it may be just 3 paragraphs. They don't have to be long. They can be quite simple. Here is the about section. So you can see here that she says, working as a brand manager, content curator for WellWeb is a role of my dreams. I get to work with incredible wellbeing professionals and touch the lives of so many when it comes to their health and wellbeing journey. So you can see right there, just from the first paragraph, that she's a really passionate person and she's really living her best life at the moment. She's really enjoying what she's doing. And even though she's not necessarily looking for a job right now, it's going to be so attractive for people when they come and read that to say she's really in a place that she loves and she's obviously working in a career that she's really passionate about. But then she goes to explain a little bit more about who she is. So she writes, after spending most of my career in fast-paced corporate jobs, I suffered extreme burnout and decided to take health and wellbeing into my own hands. I've been overwhelmed with the benefits of this change in lifestyle. I found the Well State, formerly Rare Bird Codes, with the vision to educate and inspire those around me to nourish and move their bodies, to be mindful, grateful, and most of all, to live well. Now I want to spread the word to others. I've completed the graduate diploma in wellness at RMIT, and I'm thrilled to be able to share my learnings with those around me. And then she's put her former life of the different experience that she has. I really feel like this little summary of who she is and what she does is a really great one. So if you feel like you want to write something about yourself, you could actually go back to her LinkedIn and just take a few tips of how she's writing this, because you get a really good idea of who she is, what she cares about, and why she's passionate, and her other former skills. So this is actually a really smart way to be able to put those key things in your about section. And you can also see it's not too long. So most people, when they're checking her profile, would be quite happy to read this. And then obviously she has her former experience in here as well, and education. She's even got some volunteer experience, and then she's got some skills that have been endorsed by other people and recommendations. So she's really taken the time to fill in and update her profile. And I feel like this is a really good example. There is another example that I can show you a little bit further on, which I'll have to find her name in a minute, but she has 30,000 connections and she's really going all in the LinkedIn space. However, I feel like this is a more realistic, and also it shows you what is possible to create without having to spend all day, every day on LinkedIn, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to bring the chat box over here because I feel like I can see a few LinkedIn profiles here. Great. If anybody wants me to bring yours up and use it as an example, which I might be able to do that after our activity to help you to create a few changes or help you to understand what you may be able to update, feel free to write that in the chat box and I can come back to that in a moment. But does anybody have any questions about this LinkedIn profile as such, or is anything coming up for you at the moment? If you want to write like, I have a question or yes in the chat box, or just come off mute, feel free to do that. But I hope you can understand how this is just a really good example of a well-crafted LinkedIn profile. So let's go back now to the presentation. We're going to do a little bit of an activity. We're going to do an online audit of your personal brand. As I said before, I really want this to be interactive and I want you to be able to get something out of this workshop straight away, because sometimes you know what happens, you get all inspired, you shut down the Zoom session and then you move on to something else and you don't go back to it. We don't want that to happen here. We want you to get something out of it straight away. So what I'd really like us to do is to spend the next 15 minutes doing an online audit of our profiles. So in an incognito window, which you can just right click on Safari, or what's the other one called? Chrome, and press incognito window, because that will show you what other people see. And just have a look on Facebook at your profile, have a look at Instagram, and have a look at your LinkedIn profile, and just get a really good sense of what am I putting out there? Is there anything that needs to delete? Am I representing myself? Am I showing my skills? Am I showing what I'm passionate about? Or is there some work to do? So I want to spend that time in breakout rooms doing that. And I'll put this information in the chat box as well once we get in there. But once you've had a look, and it might take you 5 minutes to have a look at your own profiles, and then I'd love you to chat amongst yourself in terms of, if we spend the next 10 minutes just having a quick chat of like how you feel like you're being represented online so far. Are you putting your best foot forward? And is there anything that you need to delete or update right now? And then if there is time to quickly say, do you need to create some new content that really highlights what you value? And does your LinkedIn profile show your highlight reel? Does it show your interests and accomplishments and career aspirations? So before we jump into the breakout rooms, does anybody have any questions about that? Abby, are you okay to pop us into breakout rooms?
I sure can.
Thank you. So we've got most of you back in here, and I heard in mine as I was doing a few things that you're interacting. So I'm going to pick on a couple of people now super quickly just to see if you found anything that you thought was interesting. Is it, I really get embarrassed when I don't pronounce names properly, so I'm sorry. Is it Palin?
Hi, yes, it's Palin, that's right.
Thank you. And what did you find when you Googled yourself?
My first one was my staff profile, which is with the university. And then second one was LinkedIn, and then another staff profile. Because I'm an academic, so I've got my Google Scholar there, ResearchGate, and a couple of some industry publications and publication websites. So I'm pretty happy with that. I was just sharing with my group that a couple of years ago, Facebook had this function that you can disable people looking up your profile. So I've done that a couple of years ago. So I'm pretty happy with that. I haven't seen my Facebook, not that there's anything there. It's very private. So yeah, that's my first page of Google search.
Awesome. And then have you got a LinkedIn profile at the moment?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. And so how are you feeling about your current LinkedIn profile?
I think it has most parts in it. It's quite a lot of information, but I think it could be done better with some of the write-ups.
Yeah, no problem. So that's good though that you're pretty well established in that space. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing. Natalie, I'm going to pick on you. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. How did you find that activity?
Yeah, it was really good. So we just had a bit of a chat about where we're at in our own personal spaces, and also talked about the good things about the LinkedIn profile that you put up. And one of the things we talked about is that none of us seem to have those personal touches, those personal interests on our profile. Like mine's, although I've got a lot of information on there, it's very clinical. So it's very, this is who I am and this is my background, but there's none of that. These are my interests. This is what I get excited about. So I think all of us found in our group that that's something that we could work on, and also found it challenging of how to articulate things like that into words to make it without then sounding arrogant or very overconfident in your own self, if that makes sense. Because there's that balance, I think, between what is good and what is not. And the other one was about, I talked a little about, and we discussed about how personally we're quite private people. So putting this out into a public space, I find that really challenging, about where that separation sits, about not allowing the public to get into my personal space and keeping some things very private, but also being able to sell myself to enable my brand to get out there.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And that's totally okay that you want to keep private in, certain areas of your life. I think that is why it could be a great option for you to make your Facebook really private, for example, but then put yourself out there on LinkedIn, where you get to really control that narrative and you get to put yourself forward that you're willing to share. How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I think that would probably work. I've created a separate Facebook profile as well. So I've got two. So one's under my business name and there's another one under myself. So one's completely locked down and one's public. So
yes,
I just got to try not to get confused between the two.
And that is an issue there, I guess, with having to maintain so many. We already have so many roles in our life, to then have to have lots of social media profiles. It can feel overwhelming, but I feel like that's the way to go if you do want to keep aspects of yourself very private. I recorded an interview on my podcast really recently. I've got a podcast. It's called The Choice with Bett. And I interviewed Emma Lovell, and she's from Lovely Communications, and she is a personal branding expert. And I feel like that could be a really good episode for anybody to listen to that really does want to blend how they bring their self forward in terms of those personal things that you want to be able to express. Because you're completely right when you're saying Amara's profile was great because it did show what she was passionate about, and people can feel a little bit uncomfortable about that. But those are the things that make us really relatable to everybody else. And so if you're talking about, I've got these skills and these skills, but then you say, but I really love like going to wineries and having a glass of wine with my girlfriends on the weekend, I might be like, me too, I love that. And that's something that we can connect with. So it's just finding those few connection points that you can put out there that will help you to find your people and find your tribe. So Elena has asked, could you share the link of the podcast? Of course I can. I'll quickly grab that for you. I'm going to pick on one more person. Thank you so much for sharing, Natalie. I'm going to pick on Liza, if you're comfortable to share, because I haven't heard from you yet. How are you?
Hi there. Yeah, thanks for this. Yeah, I suppose foremost I might say I'm quite private, so I'm not too sure how I feel about sharing, but what were you thinking about?
How did you go with the activity? Did you find that you're able to Google yourself and have a look at yourself on LinkedIn, and what were things came up for you when you did that?
Yeah, okay. I was in the group with Natalie and Laurent, and we mainly just got the time to have a talk about what Natalie was mentioning. So I haven't really gone in to do that. So I don't know if maybe someone else might be best to do that. But I can just say I did Google myself a little while ago, and I will just say that because I haven't been working for a few years and I have been running my own business but bringing up children, I'm a bit questioning about my LinkedIn profile. I don't know if this is something you'd want to have a chat with here now, or maybe later.
You can mention it, because this is a very valid thing to feel, and that's relevant for a lot of people who have been out of the workforce as such for a little while.
Yeah, okay. So I do feel that although it's been up there, that I have been running my own business. So I did a design degree at Swinburne and a product development course after that. And I have been working on a couple of products myself. So I have my LinkedIn profile, and it has a long duration for my business. And it just looks like, I don't know what to do, because I just think to myself, oh my gosh, if I went for a job, and I haven't been for a job for a while, if I go for a job, they're just going to see that it looks just too long. And what the hell can I do? And any words of advice that come straight to mind, then I will just add to that my company that I've started up is actually I have a website, and on that website is a product that I sought the license for, a innovative product in regards to COVID from Belgium. And I went about doing the sustainable manufacturing through China and Australia. And so I have that website, and I've designed it all and branded it, more or less ready to go once I get some funding. So I have got that, but I haven't really, I'm just thinking of maybe going into the startup space and working with someone else to gain some skills and confidence and build upon my degree and that. So I'm just like thinking there's this quite a big gap saying my company name.
Yeah.
But if I want to get in the startup space, have you got any words of advice?
Yeah, definitely. So firstly, don't feel, I guess, imposter syndrome, or don't feel negatively about your experience, firstly with being a mum, out working as a mum for a few years, and then also your business and the project that you've been working on. They are awesome. Like literally you've been doing incredible things, and so don't discount that at all. I feel as though really own it and write it in the about me section. So I would use that section for you as where you can really shine, and so you can write a few sentences or a couple of paragraphs about what you've been up to over the last couple of years. What project have you been working on? You can mention a little bit about your business and being a mum in the space. I feel like really it's putting to, and then you saw how Mara put her key skills at the bottom there.
Yeah.
You could really pop your key skills in the bottom, and just really, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought, but something along the lines of put it all in there of the projects that you've been doing and why you're excited to gain or to get some experience in the startup space.
Okay. Yeah. No, that sounds good, because it sounds like I can feel that what I really loved about the girl, Mara, how she put down what she was passionate about. And I can really feel that through my projects and through the courses I've done and experiences I've had, I really know what I'm passionate about, and I am significantly passionate about these particular things. So I think it's really helped me today. I like what you've just said. So
yeah, just own it, because what you have been doing has been very valuable, and it has been building your skill set, and that would be very valuable to any startup space. So definitely don't feel as, oh, I've just been hiding over here working on my own little project. Emma Isaac's the founder of Business Chicks. Once I met her at an event called 9 to Thrive, and I didn't know her at the time. This was about in 2016, and I happened to bump into her, and she was like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I've just got this little events business that I'm doing on the side. And she was like, hang on a second. I don't ever want you to present yourself that way again. I really want you to own what you're doing, because what you're doing is cool. So we've got to remember that sometimes, that what we are doing is building our skill set. And so just put it in that about me section. And I think you could also, in the experience down below where you put your work history, you could add in there as well, like that website that you're working on, and just put the website name in there and just pop in the dates that you've started and what, like, it's ongoing. You can like play with it a little bit to sound it. Even just put in mum from this, you know what I mean? All the skills you learn, because people will see your personality come through that as well, that creativeness. Yeah, cool. No, that's we don't have to fit in a little box, if that makes sense. We get
that again.
We don't have to fit in a little box. We get to express ourselves.
Don't like the box.
We don't like the box. Awesome. No, that was a good one. And the reason I think that's also great to highlight what you said is because in our last workshop, I also ran a workshop about CVs and how to read your CV. And we did have a couple of people, and I think that Wade, you may have been one of them, but there was a couple of people that have a really long work history, but also they've been having side projects on the side, or there's a gap in their work history and they didn't know how to put that forward, or felt a little bit funny about it. So yeah, it's just getting creative with how we talk about it, really.
Okay, cool. Lovely. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Now, if anybody else if anyone else has a question about that, feel free to just write that you have a question in the chat box and I'll call you out. Otherwise, we will move on, and I'm going to have to share my screen again. Here we go. So the next part of that is, once you've obviously Googled yourself, you've got an idea about what you may need to update. I really encourage you to go and update your profiles so that you feel as though you're really putting yourself forward and people can really understand who you are, what you're passionate about, and what you care about. Okay, and we will cover a bit more in a moment about how to update your brand profile from a visual point of view. But the next step here is, once you've updated your profile, ask a trusted friend for advice. Offer to buy them a bottle of wine, to spend half an hour looking at your profiles so that they can give their feedback and let you know anything that they can see. Because often we skim past things when it's ourselves. We don't really read them properly as such. And so getting some advice from a trusted friend can really help you to see where the gaps are and what you need to just pop a little bit more effort into or make a few little changes. So that's just a little tip that I wanted to share. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to create a personal brand profile. Now, these are kind of things that can help you to elevate your personal brand or who you are out in the online space. So these are things such as professional headshots that are clear, they show your personality and they make you shine. You can create a mission statement. So in that about section or in different areas, like such as on your resume, you can put a paragraph about who you are and what you care about and what you're passionate about. You can create some little design elements in Canva, which I'll show you in a moment, to uplift your LinkedIn profile, such as a banner. You can create a personal branding page to add to your resume, and you can create content like those articles to showcase your knowledge, values, and skills. They're the things that you can really do to take your personal brand to the next level and to start to be really seen as, I guess, a leader in your space and a leader in your industry. And we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail now. So some professional headshots, some photos, just very casual. They can be quite casual. They don't have to be very stiff. You can see here, this is one of me just sitting at my laptop, and then there's one holding a coffee cup. There are photographers in Melbourne and all over that actually have headshot days where you just go in for 15 minutes. They take a couple of quick photos of you, maybe in a couple of jackets. So you see I'm wearing the same outfit here. I've just popped a jacket on to get a bit of a different look. And then you've got a couple of really clear photos that you can use in your profile images. This is becoming more and more increasingly important now that we're moving further into this digital space. And I think for a headshot day, you can pay like $100 and then you've got these photos for a long time. I really want to talk about your mission statement, because a lot of people sometimes struggle with how they can put themselves forward in this way and I guess showcase very quickly and concisely what they're all about. And I'm going to give you a few examples in a moment, but a great formula to follow is, I'm Amy and I'm a business coach. I work with, or I help with women around Australia so that they can manage their money, master their mindset, and make passive income online. So that would be a bit of an example of mine and how I could quickly and easily talk about myself. But you can see here, it's like I work with / I help so they can. That's a really good formula. So if anyone wants to write that down, or I can try and I'll pop that in the chat box in case you want to have that. And I'm probably going to, yep. There we go. I'll pop that in there for you and hopefully I can move that chat box. Awesome. Okay. Here are another couple of great examples. And this is where you can put this right at the top of your LinkedIn profile, at the top of your resume, as I said before, in the about section. So I'm Mark and I'm a business strategist who helps small companies grow big by quickly uncovering what's not working so they can focus on what does. We've got, I'm Alison and I'm a web and app project specialist helping aspiring digital entrepreneurs realize their ideas, full potential and impact. And I'm Sally, I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I specialize in preventing bad things from happening to good businesses so they can keep things running smoothly. Now you can see how it's really concise. People get a quick understanding of who you are and it just shows their personality in a way. Like I love here how Sally is written. I specialize in preventing bad things from happening to good businesses. That's really catchy and you're like, yes, I love that. Before we run into talking about our brand kit, I'd love just to spend 5 quick minutes writing your mission statement. And you can follow this formula. Alrighty, I reckon we can even do it in 3 minutes. So then we've got a couple of minutes to talk, but I'll be back in 3 minutes. Does anybody have any questions in the meantime?
It's Natalie here.
Hi, Natalie.
Just a quick question while we're doing this. So I do a whole bunch of things. So I'm trying to work out how to define I'm a. So do you, like, how do you target that? So I do safety management system, non-tech skills, decision-making, communications, as well as being a pilot. So I'm just wondering, how do I define some of that into a single statement?
Yeah, sure. For myself, for example, I'm a business coach and I also have a host of a podcast. So often I'll say, hey, I'm Amy. I'm a mum of 3, business coach and host of the Choice with Amy Bett podcast.
Yep.
So you can actually make it bigger if you want to and just take out the key elements. The
Yep.
other thing that I would suggest is that depending on where you're using this for is how you would tailor it. So in the CV workshop that I talk about, we talk about having almost like a master resume. So all of your experience and skills in one big document. And then when you're applying for certain roles or certain things, you'd pull out the parts that are relevant for that
Yep.
role. So you can do that here. But if you were talking about just LinkedIn, for example, I would probably just say like the 3 things that you are, like the key points that you are, but then I guess you've got to think about creatively rather than I work with or I help, because obviously that's going to be definitive to one area.
Yeah.
If they're not related, I might go into I'm really passionate about, and you can probably talk about why you're passionate about, like what you do.
Yeah, perfect.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And just write done in the chat box when you are done so that I know where you're at. All right, so I reckon we'll spend another minute on this and just don't forget to pop done in the chat box when you're done. We might leave it there just for time's sake, but Sylvan, are you okay to read yours out? Because I read it and I think it's awesome.
Thank you, Amy and Natalie as well. I'm Sylvan Ruddock and I'm an inventor and trademark attorney who works with individuals and companies so that they can realize value in their ideas.
Love it. See, that's really interesting. Like, firstly, you have a very interesting job, so very cool, but it's really clear. And as Natalie said, it's very concise and you get to know who you are pretty much straight away. And I guess where you add a bit of personality, where you say that you work with individuals and companies so they can realize value in their ideas, that is putting your unique spin on how you interpret what you do, which it's not bland. It shows your quirkiness, which I really like. So that is brilliant. Who else can I pick on? Ben, can I pick on you?
Okay, unmuted right now. I'm just going back to my LinkedIn because I've just done it a second time.
Oh, awesome.
So following on your template, I've kept on my first little tagline, which I stole from somebody else: rebuilding better, collaboratively, locally, globally. I coach and empower clinicians to support individual, family, and community health and emotional well-being. Share your experience with me.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. This is exactly who you are and what you do. Brilliant. I wouldn't change a word. Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to try and pick on a couple of people. Wade, now you obviously said that you've got a few different experiences and I saw your comment in the chat box and I was hoping that I answered it with Natalie, but how did you go?
I'll just drop where I am in the chat box. The reason I'm having trouble with it is just I've done a lot of things and over time the tasks, the actual hands-on doing stuff has changed so much that I'm not entirely sure how I would describe myself. It's easy to come out with things like, oh, I'm a communicator, but what does that say? It doesn't really capture the specific stuff that I've done because I'm still doing a lot of the hands-on production side, doing whether it's images or publications, that kind of thing. But at the same time, yes, it's just not a huge focus. There's not really a particular focus that I would say I can step back and bundle the whole bundle of the collection of activities and skills and experiences into one thing.
Sure. Which one of your skills, Wade, do you feel the most strongly and passionate about that you really want to be working in?
Even that's a challenge. To some extent, I was feeling a lot of kinship with what Lisa was saying about recent years. The last bundle of years have taken me in a very unexpected set of directions. I'm trying to figure out how I package that to take me into what's probably going to be a completely different or certainly substantially different future.
Yeah. So
if you see what I mean.
But I want you to go a little bit deeper. So I want you to explain to me, what are the core things that you've been like, oh, sorry, this is my question. So the core things that you've been doing, I know that obviously, and it's going to take you in a different direction, but are those things that you've been doing, I guess, right now, are they Are there some of those that you want to be taken into a different direction in the future, or do you want to scrap all of that and actually pivot into a new space?
I would say the challenge is more about seeing how I can twist them into the next step that I'm going to be taking. Yeah, no, I really do struggle to put it into shape. That's part of why I'm taking part in these sessions.
Are you comfortable sharing potentially what you may be leaning towards in terms of the pivot, the new role that you're hoping to move into?
In part, let's say at the moment I'm looking at, for instance, higher education related marketing. So university or potentially TAFE or private institute, simply because I've got a reasonable exposure to that in the past. Let's say the marketing related stuff, well, I've been doing a lot online. I've produced mobile apps and things like that, social media accounts, but packaging that in a way that a part of it is also that I tend to downplay, and I'm sure everybody else does as well, that I tend to downplay everything, like you were saying earlier. I'm not particularly good, possibly because I'm very private as well. I'm not very good at owning it and saying, this is what I do, putting it as a headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say something along the lines of, I could suggest that potentially you could just flip around how you word it. So you could say, I'm Wade. I really liked where you were getting to, where you wrote, I'm a multi-skilled tech-focused marketer or communicator, and I'm really passionate about working with universities to market in a way that attracts the best students. Or do you know what I mean? Put it that way, put your passion into it of what you're wanting to do. And I feel like multi-skilled tech-focused marketer or communicator actually tells me what you do. It shows me that you've got lots of skills in that area. And you could, I guess you've built apps before and you've run social media. So you could like write technology or digital, like you could use those couple of words in there and talk about why you would be excited to work in the university space, like bringing my prior knowledge and passion of the university space to, and what's your goal? How do you want to help them? Is that helpful at all?
Yeah. I'd been trying to capture everything in one go rather than focusing on an industry. So that probably does help to pull it back to the specifics of where I think I'm going to be going.
Yeah. And obviously, because you have got so many skills, it's just thinking about where do I want it to go and how can I show them that these skills that I've got and developed, they may be very vast, but I've got an idea in how I'm going to use all of that to help in that particular industry. So it's just getting that across.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps, but you can always send me a message on LinkedIn later if you want me to help you to refine it once you have another go. Sure. But I actually feel like the wording that you got in there was quite great. Like I work with organizations large and small to help them better connect and grow their audiences online and in print. I'd probably just be a little bit more specific in terms of, that niche that you want to work with so that they can really understand that you're talking to them. Okay. Cool. Awesome.
I hadn't pulled it into an industry context. I was just trying to kind of word salad it into being all things to everyone.
Yes. And do you know what? That happens all the time. But I actually love the words that you've used. So I feel like you can just, use them to just make it a little bit more specific. But good work. Great. Awesome. Thanks. Thank you so much, everyone. If anybody else does want me to help you in this space or you'd like to read yours out, then feel free to put your name in the chat box and I will talk to you about that. But if not, then we'll move forward. And obviously questions and answers at the end, you can bring that to the table as well. But I'm obviously conscious of time and we've got a bit more content to cover, but I want to talk about your brand kit. And so before I was talking about you can do a few things to elevate your brand or who you want to portray yourself to be online, and Canva, put yes or no in the chat box if you're familiar with Canva or if you currently use Canva. And you don't have to use Canva. You can use whatever you like. You can use Adobe, InDesign, Photoshop, but Canva is just very easy for the technically challenged, which that's me. And so I'm really interested to show you how you can quickly create a bit of a brand as such. So there are some design elements, and I just want to make sure that there are some design elements that can help you uplift your LinkedIn profile and social pages, such as a LinkedIn banner, social media tiles. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm going to show you my personal example on my LinkedIn, which is actually a little bit embarrassing, but I will embarrass myself to give you an example. I'll just search myself up one moment. I'll pop that down. How do I see my profile? There we go. So in Canva, you can literally just type in LinkedIn banner and you can create a banner. And so right here, it's very easy that people can see this is my website and they can see my Instagram handle. So they can search me up on those areas where I would love to actually direct them to straight away. It's very clear, even though, yeah, it could be done by a graphic designer and look prettier. But for someone that is not fully competent in the technology or the creative space, I feel like that is a pretty easy thing to do. I literally just grabbed a Canva template and popped it in there. Other things that you can do is elevate social media tiles. So these are actually tiles that I use on Instagram, but I have a look and feel. So I have fonts that I use in everything. I use the Montserrat font, and I also use a Playfair font, and I use this Brittany font. And I use these 3 fonts. Well, there's only 2 of them here, but I use those fonts in literally everything that I do. And I have the same colors that I use. So I've got a purple, a blue, a navy, and an oatmeal, and then like an orangey. And they're my signature colors that I use to distinguish who I am. So when someone has a look at me on LinkedIn, or when they look at me on Instagram or on Facebook, anywhere that I can control it, and obviously on some of the wording you can't control it because you're just stuck with the normal LinkedIn fonts, but wherever you can control it, like images and graphics, I use the same types of theme so that people can look at that and show that, okay, it's consistent. Alrighty, I'm going to go, that's all that I want to show you there. And I'll go back to my presentation. Bear with me. I want to show you this too before we actually move on. So this is something called a brand kit in Canva. And this makes your life really easy when you are editing images. And so what you can do, and I believe you have to have the Pro Canva to have this ability. However, I think it's like $10 a month or something. And if you use Canva all the time, it is really worth it, because what you can do, for example, is upload your logos in here. You can choose your fonts and you can choose your brand colors, and they are saved in there at all times. And then so what it's really handy for is when you go to a design. So say I'm going to go to, I'll give you an example, an Instagram post, and say I want to choose this one, customize this template. Okay. Now I want to show you this. I'm going to have to make my screen bigger and see how I have to move the chat box around all the time. So sorry guys, but there's something down here called styles, and you can literally click fonts, you can click your colors, and it will automatically change it for you. And if you don't like the way the colors are presented there, you can just keep clicking it until it becomes your colors, which is just so easy to create a brand that looks like you. So really, for you to be able to accomplish this, you need to choose some colors that you like. And if you don't know what you like because you're creatively challenged like I am, don't worry, because Canva has so many color palettes there that you can just have a look through and go, okay, I actually really like that one. I like how those colors are and how they go together. So I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to use that as my color palette everywhere. So you would just grab that color palette and save that in your brand kit. So then when you're doing your posts, it instantly looks like you, and you can be like, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to be these colors. I'm going to be these fonts, and colors, fonts, and yeah, you can have your logos in there as well. And obviously if you get imagery as well, then your imagery, like a photo shoot and having a few headshots, everything starts to look really consistent. And this is that next level that you don't have to go to. I don't want to scare everyone, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my goodness, I've got to do so much stuff. The most important thing for you to do is actually get your words out there in terms of have an about me profile, start to write a couple of articles if you feel called to, and start to look at what's out there about you and how you can put your skills and everything further forward, but this is that next level of how you can create that real personal brand. So for anyone that really does want to go that next step, this is things that you could do. So I've shown you the Canva brand kit, I've shown you LinkedIn banners, and I've shown you of how you can use that to create some social media tiles that you can use wherever your professional profiles are, like Instagram. And this I thought was really cool as well. So for anybody that did attend the CV workshop that I taught last week, I explained how with the ATS software, I probably buggered that up, sorry, but the software that reads all of the resumes, you actually need to have quite a basic resume that reads from left to right. You really can't have any fancy images in there or tables or graphs because the software can't read it, and it actually takes your resume and just puts it in the other folder. And 65% of resumes actually get caught up in that folder because of these simple design errors. And they're not errors, you think you've got a really fancy resume, however it's actually working against you. But what you can do is you can pop a link in here, and I want to show you quickly to get to put yourself forward in a different way. So this is Eliana Goldstein. She actually sent this to me. She pitched herself to me to be a guest on my podcast, and whilst she didn't make it on my podcast, she did get my attention with what she had put together. I thought that this was really smart and unique because she just had a link that I could go into this page, and it shows her image, it shows her social media profile, and you can see her email there. It's got some photos there that if she was to go on my podcast, I could quickly grab those photos. And then it's got a biography that you click and it links to her biography, and it also links to the interview topics that she talks about. So this could just be an extra little thing that you could add to your resume. I know a few people in the last workshop were like, oh, but I really love to show my creative side, and I'm really worried about having a very plain, boring looking resume. This is something that you can do to elevate that. You can add a link in there so that you can show them what you're about, if that is helpful at all. The next thing I want to quickly talk about is content pillars and values. And the reason I'm talking about this is because a lot of employees tend to get very overwhelmed when they have to think about putting themselves out there as an expert in their field in terms of writing content on LinkedIn. So you know how there are those articles and you can be sharing. Some people are like, I work for a company. I don't know, firstly, why I should be expressing myself in that way, but also how I would even do that. So I just want to give you a couple of quick ideas about how to really know what content to talk about that is unique to you and highlights you as the leader in that industry, in your industry. So firstly, without question, the best way to feel truly connected to your best self in and out of the workplace is to have a strong understanding of what you dearly value. So what your purpose is, what the big picture of what you're trying to achieve, and what you want to be known as. Okay. And there's a values exercise that you can do that I'll pop in the chat box at the end of this session, but it's a really good idea to actually do that values exercise, and because it highlights what you really care about and what you stand for. I know, I'll give you a quick personal example. It must have been about a year ago now. The pandemic was like, we were in the second lockdown, I believe. I had a newborn baby and I just was feeling really miserable in a way. I wouldn't say I was bordering on depression, but I was just feeling really flat and not like myself. And I usually have quite a bright, optimistic personality. And it wasn't until I was working with my coach that she said, oh, hang on, how about we do a quick values exercise just to see how you're feeling? And I was like, oh, boring, a values exercise. I couldn't think of anything worse. Anyway, I did it with her. It took 10 minutes and it really opened my eyes and almost blew my mind, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I could quickly see that the things that I truly value, I'm not focusing on at all at the moment. Things that I value are adventure. And I had not done anything adventurous in a good 18 months, obviously COVID / pregnant / a newborn baby. It's not very adventurous in the sense that I see adventure. And then another one for me is like friendships and connecting. And pandemic, we couldn't see our friends. So it really just highlighted to me that I wasn't putting focuses in areas that I care about, and that was making me feel flat and miserable. And On the other hand, when you're talking about your personal brand, if one of your biggest values is like philanthropy, I always get that word wrong, but say that's one of your core values, that's something that you can be like talking about on your social pages and on your LinkedIn that shows people who you are and what you care about. And it doesn't always have to be about your immediate job role. It can be about your passions and what you care about. I like to think about picking 3 to 5 topics that you would like to consistently discuss, amplify, and create content for on social or LinkedIn. And then when you've got those 3 overlining topic headings, you can write little dot points. So for example, one was philanthropy. You could then write dot points. What is it about philanthropy that I'm really passionate about? And then you can turn those topics into discussion points or discussion articles on LinkedIn. You can write 3 or 4 paragraphs about your viewpoint about that certain topic. And so, for example, I want to give you an example about mine. So I'm really passionate about business. I'm really passionate about mums who work, so career-focused mums. And I'm very passionate about how our mindset affects how we show up in the world and affects what we experience. So they are content buckets for me. And then I will go and write dot points about them and share that with the world, basically, or share that with my networks and my audience that I have. So our last, actually, we've got one more exercise after this, but they're fun. I want you to spend just 2 minutes writing down what your content pillars could be. So what are the things that you really care about that you could talk about all day? And as I said, it doesn't just have to be about your work. Obviously, your work may be one area, but you also have permission to talk about other things. So you might be really passionate about football, or you might be really passionate about music or bands or whatever. Let that come through, because people are people at the end of the day, and they want to know all of you. They don't want to just know your skills, because again, it's not that relatable unless you're like truly super passionate and only passionate about your job. There's more of us. So 2 minutes and let's write what we think our 3 content pillars will be. And any questions, please feel free to let me know. Ben wrote adventure, opposite of being pregnant. I know, I actually jumped out of a plane for my birthday about 2 months after that, and it like completely revitalized me. It was awesome. Kevin, is it possible to have a good brand image on LinkedIn without posting photos of yourself, or is it key for brand reach or recognition? Yeah, look, you can have a good brand image and not post yourself. Obviously, that's a very personal decision. However, I will tell you that people do buy from people and work with people. They want to know people. I think there's this crazy statistic that millennials, especially, but everyone, but especially millennials, I think it's 86 or 89% or something, will only generally buy from brands with people at the forefront, which is telling you that they want to be connected to the person that they're working with and that they're buying from. So if you can get over the fact of not wanting to have a photo, because I know like when you actually get a job or you're at work, you're going to have to show up, you're going to have to be a person. It is better to put yourself forward if you can. Okay, Elena, my content pillars are art, creativity, and connection. Network, social media, and community. Awesome. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but I'll shut up for a minute so that everybody can have a second to write. Awesome. I'm seeing some great ones coming through. We're just going to spend 1 more minute on this, and then I'm going to pick on a couple of people. I'm also interested to hear from people that I haven't picked on, or haven't spoken to. Picked on was not the right word, as well. And sorry that if I'm not interacting with everybody when I can't see you on camera, sometimes it's hard to know if you're there or listening in. So feel free to pop your name in there if you're happy for me to talk to you. But I'm going to talk to Jono if you're happy to in a second.
Hey, Amy. Sorry, it's a bit loud. What was your...
So firstly, thank you for sharing your content pillars. I love marine science, adventure, and music creation. Awesome. And see how they're all very varied, like they're all very different, but obviously very important to you. So when you wrote down your content pillars, could you instantly think of a few things about those topics that you would like to talk about or make you feel passionate to talk about them?
Yeah, sure. I'm currently studying, I'm an undergraduate student, looking to do my master's down in Tasmania. I've got just half a year left. I'm going to go do a master's of Antarctic science. Yeah, so I'd like to go down to Antarctica, hopefully, for 6 months of the semester. So that sort of ties into adventure a little bit, hopefully. So I'm pretty excited for that. And I've been playing drums and I've got my own band. Yeah, that's just a little bit of a side thing. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of this has been really helpful, man. I don't have a LinkedIn profile or anything like that. I'm currently just working as a lifeguard just to support myself. But yeah, so it's all been really helpful just seeing how to definitely separate myself from the rest of the group in terms of other scientists in the field, because it's quite a niche group. There's not many jobs on the market. It's really specialized. So if you want to really get anywhere, you got to do a lot of, like, really go the whole way. So hopefully maybe one day I'll be doing a PhD or something like that. Yeah, so I'm really just trying to separate myself. Yeah, it's helped a lot.
And just have persistence there, like keep going for it, keep trying. I remember when I went for the Cotton On group that I was really passionate about, I had to apply for it 3 separate times before they gave me the job. And then I ended up managing the team. So I feel like you sound like you've got a really great vision for what you want. And so I just want to encourage you firstly to just go for that, because if you can see it, then you can do it. I totally believe that. But yeah, so I love how you popped your content pillars in there, and these are things that will really set you apart from other people. As you just said, I encourage you to create a LinkedIn profile, because I feel as though scientists would have LinkedIn profiles, I'm sure of it. So I feel like when they can go there and you've got a space to showcase who you are and why you are different and show your passions, then it's almost like it's almost like a creative resume, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I encourage you to focus on these areas that you've just
I think, it was just a little bit tricky, like when I was just thinking about that sort of thing, about how to, although everyone is in the chat, lifeguard's pretty cool. And it is, don't get me wrong, but it's got really like nothing to do with my degree. So it's a little bit like tricky trying to bridge the gap. So I'm trying to do volunteering and that sort of thing in that field, because I feel like, I'm not sure, you can probably let me know, but if that's the sort of appropriate thing that you'd put on your LinkedIn profile, would I just be like, oh yeah, like I'm a lifeguard? Like, I just feel like that's not very, it doesn't tie in well.
You're still next to the sea, but it shows that you get up and you're a worker and you're passionate about supporting yourself while you're studying. And the lifeguard part probably isn't very important as such. You can write there as working on the side whilst you're studying. You said you were studying, right?
Yes, that's right.
So I would probably encourage you to find parts of your degree or whatever it is that you're studying, like find content topics that relate to what you're doing and write little opinion pieces about those, because that really shows the people that you're going to be hopefully working with and hiring what area of what you're doing now that you're really passionate about, and they'll get to see your tone of voice. So that's a really unique way that you, even though you're not working in the space at the moment, obviously volunteering is really good. If you can get a few gigs there, you can start to showcase that. But I wouldn't discount the fact that you can do some little opinion pieces now and talk about areas that you've learned, because obviously there is on the job experience and that is so valuable, but you are also studying right now and you are learning and gaining a lot of skills. So you can definitely showcase that at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate that.
That's helpful. And
definitely.
I'll ask Abby to share the slides with everybody along with the recording, just so that you can go back through and get the tips about creating your LinkedIn profile. If you haven't got one before, some of the previous slides, the Canva kit could be quite helpful for you. So for everybody that matters. So hopefully we can share the slides with you as well. I believe we can.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
No problems. Thank you so much for sharing. And there's just one more person that I wanted to pick out quickly, and it was Elena.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how did you go? I loved your content pillars as well. So art, creativity, and connection.
Yeah, I'm an amateur artist. I don't sell on it. And at the same time, like Jono, a student studying PR and social media, as well as graphic design in a different uni. Awesome. And I have a not business model, but a brand that I want to put out within a year or so, within those lines, where there is content creation, there is some art and design, as well as just some normal art and photography. And those things are the things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about being creative in all ways. I have 40 plants in my room. I'm that person. And networking as well with people with the same passions or different passions along the same lines.
Fabulous. That's awesome. And so when you wrote your content pillars, and obviously you clearly understand what you're passionate about, which is great. Did it spark what kind of things you could start talking about on LinkedIn and on your social media platforms that you are building for your business and your brand?
Not LinkedIn. I have an administration background, so every time I think about LinkedIn, I think about a very professional and uniform way of things. But it did spark some ideas on platforms like Instagram, where I'm already trying to build some stuff for where I mix my photography and my visual arts all together, doing collage sort of things to put them together. And it did give me ideas about how I can mix it up with graphic design once I finish my degree on it.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And things that were coming up for me that you could start sharing, obviously social media is something you're passionate about. You could start talking about social media trends or photography trends, or you can start getting in those areas and making yourself an expert just by talking about what's coming up and what's new in the industry. How does that feel?
That's very much of a fit. I'm not too sure of the trends. Most of these days, social media trends, even I can't stand to follow them. So maybe I may have to do some pick and choose between the trends, especially with lockdown. Everyone's so bored and trying to
Everyone's creating dancing reels.
Really unrealistic and unnecessary trends, but I'll probably have to do some pick and choose on them, and maybe I can do things like my favorite trends.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, hopefully that little exercise has really just showcased you what else you can be talking about, because we are multi-passionate people. We have more about us. And when people often, if someone would say, oh, what's unique about you? Often we freeze up and we can't really think about what those things are. But I don't know, I'm a person, I've got kids, got husband, whatever. But when you think about it like that way, in terms of your content pillars, it's easier to identify what we really care about. And most of you actually showcase some things very quickly. So that's very impressive. So I would start to think about all of those things as like my unique self and what makes me stand out or different. And then how can I bring that into my social media profile? And Elena, just one thing I want to mention as well. And hopefully I can show you this before the finish, but her name's escaping me and I feel as though I may have it in here a bit further on, but I think that her name, the founder of Shopo, she on LinkedIn has a very progressive platform, so a profile. So it's not just for suits. It's not overly professional. She does little video snapshots of things that she cares about that day or what she is thinking about. And she really blends Instagram almost with LinkedIn. So don't discount LinkedIn as a really good way for you to be able to network and connect with people in the space that you want to work with, because they're all on there and you can do it in a different way.
I'll definitely check her out. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, I'll find the name, and I usually use her as an example in this workshop, but I don't know what I've done. So I'll see if I can find her a bit later. Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. And again, there are a few people on here that I haven't spoken to yet. So if you would like to share your voice or if you'd like to speak out, then please feel free to write your name in the chat box and I can talk to you as well and talk about your content pillars too. But for the sake of time, where I would, oh goodness, I can talk all day. Sorry guys, luckily this is quick. So I want to talk about quickly, does your personal brand reflect the best version of you right now? And what I mean by that is the best you as your very best self. So often things we say like, when I get that pay rise, I'll wear clothes that I love. Or when I finally become an executive, I will take time to style my hair beautifully each morning. And sometimes the person that we imagine ourselves to be when we get that, insert the blank, is disconnected from the person that we're showing up as right now. I know, for example, we're all in a pandemic, and this is really tough on everybody right now because we're often working from home, we're very isolated, and so it is a lot harder to put in the extra effort. I know there's been multiple meetings where I've been with clients and I've quickly done my hair and makeup and I'm wearing tracksuit pants and Ugg boots and trying to get as comfortable and just whatever as possible. But most people don't understand that by allowing your best version self to be a one-day vision rather than deciding to show up as that person right now, you're actually blocking amazing opportunities from your reach. And a lot of people, and I'm not talking about just how you dress and how you brush your hair and all those things. It's not just a physical point of view. I'm also talking about like the way that you project yourself, you're confidently, the way you stand, the way that you command your presence. I'm talking about all of those things. So I like to use this example of, imagine that right now you're a sales coordinator. However, you dream of one day becoming a highly paid executive with a corner office. But the problem is that when you see that executive walking down the corridor in the office, she's dressed in a Chanel suit, her hair's done, she walks with command, she confidently speaks, and then you see yourself at the desk, your desk is messy, you're wearing stockings with holes in them and clothes that just don't fit you very well, you haven't taken the time to groom yourself properly, and you just slunched over at your desk and you're just talking very softly, hoping that nobody even knows that you exist. And can you see how right now you would find it very hard to imagine yourself as that executive, because they're so contrasting, they're so different. And unless you actually start showing up as the person that you want to be, then it's going to be very hard to ever get there, because you're never going to just open your door one day and you're just going to be that executive. You're going to be that new person. You actually have to take the action to do those things. And the way to get there is actually to start now. It's not to wait until you get the job, you get the pay rise, you get the whatever, because also when you start showing up as that person now, and I don't want you to be anyone but yourself. I'm talking about the best version of you, the best version that you see yourself as, because when you start to show up as that person, other people also feel that energy and they feel your presence and they feel your confidence and your command, and they even start getting on board and they start helping you to get you to where you want to go, because when you believe it and when you show up as it, everybody else starts to believe it. It's no one can deny there's an energy, like we project energy. For example, somebody walks into the room, they're upset, they're in a bad mood, you instantly can feel that. It's almost like your skin, like you prick up and you're like, oh my goodness, this person's in a bad mood, quick, what do I do? I go to retreat. I don't want to get caught up in that. Whereas if someone waltzes into the room with a beautiful smile on their face and they're energetic and they're happy, you instantly get swept up in that happiness. It's the same as how we project ourselves in the world in general. If we're projecting ourselves as the best version of us, people feel that as well. And we also feel it, and it just takes us further. So what you need to do is you need to bridge the gap between the person that you're showing up as now and the person that you envision yourself to be. And so I want to ask you, who is that person? So if you're thinking about you as your very best, what are you wearing? How do you walk? Are you speaking with confidence and command? What are you eating? What do you do in your everyday life? Are you working out more? Do you see rock bands? Are you taking courses that really light you up? Are you upskilling in a certain area? What is that fabulous life that you imagine yourself having when you're at your very best, or when you've got that job? That's my question. So I want to just take, and I know we're running out of time, but I feel like we can spend 2 minutes on this. So I want you to take 2 minutes just to write down the answers to some of these questions. And obviously, if you don't care about one of them, just skip it as well, just to be capturing people into your audience. So if you can have something to be able to grow your email list, that's awesome. Elena, awesome. So I loved reading where you envision yourself to be. So what I want to know is, what is different about that than right now, like your current situation? So what are you doing right now that is in contrast to that reality? And it doesn't, like, obviously you haven't got the job right now, but you know, is there anything else that you can see yourself showing up as very differently? Now there's a beautiful lady on this call and I can't see her name, but you've got curly hair in your picture and you've got a beautiful kind of red crimson-y top on. Are you happy to have a chat and tell us what's coming up for you in this exercise? No, that's okay. Varsha?
I'm sorry.
How are you?
I'm good.
What came up for you with this activity?
It was fun. What am I wearing? I thought it would be nice to get out of my pajamas and actually change into good clothes, feel good about myself. It feels horrible being locked up and always dressed up in pajamas. It's a change having to dress up and feel good about yourself. How do I walk? I can't really say. Maybe my gait is normal, and I try to have that open chest and walk with confidence kind of thing, but sometimes I also just slouch down. Are you speaking with confidence and command? I don't really know how to say that. It's like a mix of both. I sometimes am, sometimes I just want to be sitting in a corner, not really getting along. It's just want to be in my own headspace.
Yeah.
What are you eating? I think I'm trying to focus on more healthy diet. What do you do in your everyday life? I study. Most of my days go by studying. I'm very passionate about my violin, so I give enough time to practice as well. And do step out for a jog or a walk sometimes. Also clear my head sometimes.
Yeah, cool.
Do you see rock bands?
So what this question was actually is, who are you as the best version of yourself? When you picture yourself to be the best version of yourself, then what are you wearing? How are you walking? Like, what are you eating? So I think you were explaining then to me what you do now. Is that right? Which is great, because it's good to recognize what you do now. And so the next step of that for you would be then to have a think about, all right, so what I'm doing now, is that different to who I imagine myself to be as the very best version of myself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so currently what I'm doing, I'm trying to imagine myself to be the best version, but maybe not be the best version right now, but you want me to imagine how I want to be?
Yeah. So for example, for me, I would imagine myself at my best version of myself to be like completely organized. So like I've got 3 kids at home and I have my own business, and often I can look around and there's just crap everywhere because I haven't taken the time to get up that little bit early and just be completely organized, and then I'm chasing my tail. Or for me, I imagine having some different clothes in my wardrobe. I imagine doing a few different things. I imagine myself studying a different course to get to where I want to be. So the point of it is thinking about those things, about what you imagine you'd be doing as the best version of yourself, and then what are you doing right now, and then how do we start bridging the gap? So what that means is, what can you start implementing in your life now that gets you closer to be showing up as that person, as the best version of yourself? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing though, because it's really good to have a really good clarity of what you are now and what feels good and what feels like, oh, I should be doing something else or showing up in a different way. And then you can start to think about those different things. Okay, so we do have to wrap up in a second, but basically the last little part of this was really just start implementing some of those things into your life right now. Basically take a few things off the list that you wrote and then start implementing them, like 1 a week or 1 a month even. Those things that are going to help you to start getting closer and closer to that person that you really show up as, because again, it does really all come together as your personal brand. How you're showing up online, how you're showing up as a person. Obviously, we all do a lot of Zoom calls, and when we have our interviews, we want to be showing up and feeling like the best version of ourselves. And the only way to start to get there is to actually start taking that action now and to start implementing those things. So having the awareness of what that looks like is the first step into be able to take that action. And just a little disclaimer, I'm not telling you to go and spend thousands of dollars if it's not in your budget right now, for example, like a Chanel suit, but just get creative and think, okay, so how can I create that look without having to spend that money? And then soon as you move forward in your career or you get the jobs, you probably will have that money to then one day buy the suit. But how can you get creative now? And I just want to give you a couple more examples super quickly, but here are some examples that are a bit out of the box. So for me, I could clean my car. I could sell some of my old clothes and save for new ones that make me feel great. I could declutter my workspace. I could take a bath with some essential oils to de-stress. I could get a manicure and a pedicure. I could buy myself a $10 bunch of flowers from the local farmers market for my table. I could put on some fake tan, and I could take a public speaking course, because that's something that I'm really passionate about, improving the way that I present myself and the way that I speak as I grow in my career. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of inspiration about a few things that you could take from that. We've done that activity already. And as I said, focus on implementing one thing each week and make it fun. Don't get overwhelmed by this process. Just think about it as a new hobby to do to get you closer and show up as that person. Because I think Ben said it before, when you show up as that person, you are that person, something along those lines. But the last thing that I want to quickly say is you get to decide how to show up as the very best version of you. So how can you present yourself feeling confident, on purpose, and in alignment with the very best person of yourself? Because you are uniquely you and you are fabulous just as you are. So remember that there's no one else like you and no one else as awesome as you. So what we've covered today is what is my personal brand, values, and the very best version of you. We've done a digital online audit, and we didn't talk about how to nail an interview. I think I changed that before, and we focused on how to create a brand kit and how to level up your platforms like social media. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. I know that this was a lot of information in 2 hours, and I so appreciate you sticking all the way to the end and interacting. This has been a really great interactive group, and I've been so impressed with the level and the caliber of people on this call. So just keep going for it. You've got this. And I will stay around. I know Abby has to close this down really soon because she does have another event soon. But if anyone has any questions, I can stick around for another, say, just 5 minutes to answer them. So with that said, feel free to pop your name in the chat box or just come off mute if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to say before we get going.
Just wanted to say thank you, Amy. It was amazing.
Oh, thanks, Jono. Hopefully you got something out of it, and good luck. I'm really interested to hear how you go. You'll have to connect with me on LinkedIn because, yeah, you've got a very bright future ahead of you.
Absolutely will do. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yeah, I'd love to connect with everyone. No worries, Jono. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'll share my LinkedIn here. How do I do that? You'd think I would know. Being in this space. Here we go. I'll just grab it for you. I think it's this one. Hopefully. There we go. Oh, awesome, Natalie. I'm so glad that it's given you a lot to think about. Any more questions? No, thanks, Sylvan. Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Ben. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions that I can see. Feel free to yell out, but if not, I just, appreciate. Oh, yep. Ben, did you have a question? Oh, Sylvan, you've got questions? Okay. No. Oh, you're just waving. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Feel free to jump off. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you again in the online space. See you guys. Thank you.
Amazing session. Well done. I've got to skedaddle because I've got to go straight into another event. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a bunch. Bye.